Good day. Welcome to the Talk It Out podcast. My name is Neal Bailey-Harper, and today I'm in focus with bricks, bridges, and borders. The way I became a parent. The music I'm listening to. When I was 13 years old, my sister went to Howard University in Washington, D.C., and for Philadelphia, we lived in Philadelphia, she bought this album home, Gil Scott-Heron. Changed everything for me. I loved it ever since and have loved everything he's done. This song is Daddy's Girl. It's from the 1974 album Winter in America. It's really good. I mean, him and Brian Jackson, what a great team. Your Daddy Loves You is actually the title of the song. I knew a long time ago when I was a teenager. Now, I wasn't going to rush it, but I knew I wanted to be a parent. Yeah, I wasn't trying to be a parent then, but I knew I wanted to be one. One date that sticks in my mind for me, July 31st, 1965 at 1:23 in the afternoon. That was the day my father died. Now, he was not living with us at the time, but that's just the day I remember. So I didn't know a lot about that relationship. And at some point in my life, I knew I wanted to be that. I wanted to be a singer, I wanted to be an actor, I wanted to be all of that. But if I had to, being a parent trumped the list for me. Everything was going to build around that. Now, and I waited till my 30s. And, I also believe that sometimes the best pictures we have are the ones we never take. The ones that are in your head. Me remembering cutting the cord on my oldest son's, it was a C-section, being able to pick him up, clean him up myself, surrounded by a lot of nurses, clean him up, weigh him, shape his head, help clean out his lungs. Now, remember back then, though, there was supposed to have been, normally people stayed in the hospital 4 days when they had a kid. My son was born on the 3rd of February. My birthday's the 6th of February. So in my mind, my warped mind, I'm thinking, I got 4 days. I can have a birthday party on the 6th and go get her out the hospital on the 7th and everything be cool. Turned out I got to bring him home on my birthday. Best gift I ever had. And my second son, he came out really quick. Oh, the other thing about my first son, even though it was a C-section, I remember that morning we had a new doctor, and his name was Dr. Wu. And I knew everything was cool. Because if you know I love Steely Dan, are you with me, Dr. Wu? That's the way that works. My second son came out just like that, 8 pounds, 5 ounces. Me and the nurse pulled him out. And it's those kind of things that, okay, you know what? It's fun to become a father, if you get my drift. It's rewarding to be a dad. Fun to become a father, but it's rewarding to be a dad. This is also Gil Scott-Heron from his 1971, no, this is from 74 too. It's called Back Home. Got to get back to see my people. So I studied child development. And for those of us who have done that, we know about Piaget's theory of child development, which basically says that nobody is intellectually better than everybody else. You grow, the brain grows like the body grows. And at some point in time, it completes itself. But doing that, there are different stages that affect us all in some ways the same way. So when your children are little, 1 to 3, they think a certain way. They can't get potty trained at 12 months. Maybe some can, but most of them it takes 18 months. But they learn in stages like we all do. From 3 to 8 to 10, that's the time where we feel like we need to find things for them to do. Firstly, the bricks. Let me go back to what I'm saying. Bricks, bridges, and borders. Bricks are the things you put in your child's spirit. The things that were put into you, plus the things that you learned, and even the things that were put into you, the things that you can make better. So, moral things, spiritual things, those are bricks. Things that they'll always be there in your child's life. Bridges. You take those learned lessons from the bricks and they use them to cross the bridges that will come in everybody's life. Whether they come during the natural progression of growth or challenges, but you use those bricks to help you get over the bridges. And then there's the borders. One of the best things you can ever tell a child is no. We all need boundaries at some point in time. We all test the boundaries we're given. We have to stand up to those boundaries that we give. Bricks, borders, bridges. Or bricks, bridges, borders. That's how, it's not like I had this theory when I first had children. No. You can have a plan, but like Mike Tyson famously said, everybody's got a plan until they get hit. I remember when we brought our Brandon home, my oldest son, I left my wife in the bedroom for about 5 minutes, and I came back and she was crying hysterically, and I was like, what's wrong? She's like, he's going to be here. He's never going away. And I looked at her, and I started crying too. Oh gosh, he is. He's going to be here. That's the thing. Now you have a new life. You have a new peace in your life. But don't let it take away from your life. Now, it adds to it. It kind of reshapes it. It does something to the configuration and to the logistics of it. But struggle with letting it take away from you. You know what? Honestly, I started working for myself when I had my children. At first, I thought that might be the hardest thing to do. But then I said to myself, how can I look in my sons, both of their faces, and tell them to be what you want to be when I'm not doing it? This is Gil Scott-Heron again, Pieces of a Man, 1971. Teenage years. I think the hardest thing to be is a teenager. And I think the second hardest thing to be is the parent of a teenager. Everybody's learning on the fly. As a parent, you begin to understand, if you do not have the knowledge prior to that, consistency is important. To know that the nature of children, we were all children. Our nature is to challenge. Our nature is to question. Our nature is to step in the thing that says, don't step in it. That's most of our nature. So when your kids get to be teenagers, and as a father with sons, I remember countless nights where if you set a curfew for your children, you want to go to bed and go to sleep, but you can't. Because if they show up 5 minutes after that curfew, in my mind, I had to meet them at the door. Just to confront them, to let them know that that's not what we agreed to. That's not what was stated. And you couldn't just do it once. You had to do it every time. I also believe that the minute you stop being able to outsmart your children can be the cause for other things. In other words, I ain't gonna say we all, I speak for myself. I got to switch when I was little. Got to switch regularly. It was the time. I got paddled in school. We got all of that. But my thing, as a parent, I thought that the last thing I wanted to be was physical. You gain respect through mental development. I wanted the respect of my children. I wanted physical to be a last resort. Okay? Because at some point in time, your children outgrow you. Then that turns around, or it can turn around. But being a teenager is as hard for us. No, I take that back. It's a whole lot harder for them. But it's hard for us because we want to base it on, and sometimes, in some instances, how we were as teenagers. The world was a different place then. I always said, too, in the last 15 or 20 years, you can tell your children the truth about what they want to know. Or you can let them find out through other ways. Because they can. That's how the world is. So I can tell them the truth factually and my point of view from what I know, or I can let them find out from somebody who doesn't love them as much as I do. I got a good friend in high school I grew up with. His name is, I'm going to call him Tubby because I know it'll piss him off. But Tubby once told me, we both have children, grown adult children now, but Tubby told me years ago in a time of frustration for me that, Neal, we can teach our kids to fly the plane, but they got to land it by themselves. That's where we as parents have no control of the outcome. That's when you really understand they're your child, but it's their life. And the last thing I would want as a parent is to not be supportive of what my child wished to do with their life. Not what I wish for them to do with it, what they wish to do for their life. See, the older I get to, you realize that you do some things that you have to do because there is grace and mercy in providing for those you are challenged to provide for. But if they wish to go their own road, you got to let them go and be there when they need you. This finally is also Gil Scott-Heron. I think I'll call it Morning from Pieces of a Man. Whatever relationships you have with the people you create these miracles with, your child, if you have children in those relationships, every one of them was worthwhile. Let me say that again. Whatever relationship you might have with your wife or your girlfriend or your boyfriend or however, 10 years, 10 days, whatever, it is a blessed union because a child came from it. So there's no regrets to it. When my kids were little, the one thing I knew I could tell my wife, and we are still together, but the one thing I knew I could tell her then was, look, if we have an issue, a major issue, I'll leave to go down in the basement. But I wasn't leaving the house. And one thing I think me and the woman I'm related to by marriage did well and do well is we realized that we love our children first, as opposed, and it doesn't affect what we go through. It does in a way, it always does because they're there, but you love your children and you make sure that has nothing, as very little as possible to do with anything else that you're going through as a grown-up. Listen, we all parent differently. But if you're parenting through love, if you're trying to nurture, it might be things that you didn't get. But that's okay. The reason that you can give it is because you processed everything you didn't get or everything you did get. And you want something for your children. You want the best for them, just like our parents wanted the best for us. You can't judge the way they did it. We're here. They gave you the opportunity. In our time, what it was they gave you opportunity. They allowed you to be in the ring and counted on you to use the bricks to cross the bridges, to push up on the borders. Put solid foundational beliefs, moral beliefs. Trust your kids. Let them trust you. Give them the knowledge that can help them get over the bridges whether you're there or not. Because they'll pull those things out when they need them, y'all. And that way, they create their own borders. But they're safe, and they're loved, and you are too. Best thing I've ever done. And I don't even know if I've done it well. But it's the most rewarding thing that I'm doing, because it's not done. I'm still doing it. Love your children, y'all. They change the world. It's a time we got to learn to understand a little better, and most of us do, but they know it. Love them, let them teach, and a child shall lead. Isn't that another phrase that we all know? Have a blessed day, everybody.